Following Dragon Quest XI, I don't think anyone was quite expecting a whole spin-off dedicated to one of the game's party members, Erik and his sister Mia, but I sure haven't complained. Erik was one of the stronger characters in the title, and I was yearning to see Mia receive additional screen time. Plus, as someone possessing a brief history with the Monsters spin-offs, Dragon Quest Treasures was immediately on my radar. And after playing it, I had a reasonably enjoyable time, though noteworthy elements made the experience boring and monotonous at points.
Ow. Didn't expect that. But we got them.
We got them all right. Treasure!
Dragon Quest Treasures stars protagonists Erik and Mia, prominent characters from the franchise's latest mainline outing. These youths are orphans raised by Vikings and as such have almost an instinctual yearning for treasure. However, during one seemingly ordinary night, when the crew is partying, Erik and Mia sneakily slip out onto the deck, freeing two bizarre creatures that were trapped, Porcus and Persula. Soon after, the siblings decide to pursue their treasure hunting dreams by utilizing a nearby mini-boat. And with the two flying beings in tow, land on an island housing two magical daggers. As Erik and Mia grab them, the world warps, transporting the party to the continent of Draconia, a collective locale made up of 5 explorable islands. Here, the youths are granted the opportunity to find treasure to their heart's collective content, and are tasked with finding the fabled 7 Dragonstones for Porcus and Persula's benefit. The narrative in Dragon Quest Treasures is not an emphasis, acting more as a backdrop to justify the current circumstances. Admittedly, later scenes make the premise and involved cast moderately compelling, but they will not be what players stick around for. Instead, the gameplay is the primary focus here, and there's plenty to dive into. Firstly, following the introductions and tutorials, with the latter being a tad too long for how simple the mechanics are, Erik and Mia form their own nameable gang, enabling free exploration across 5 vast landmasses. While usage of this term has grown too common for its own good, it's appropriate to call Dragon Quest Treasures semi-open world. The areas are expansive, perhaps intimidatingly so, at least initially. Despite being tasked with finding the 7 Dragonstones, you're free to explore at your leisure and find treasure entirely unrelated to the story-centric tasks at hand. In fact, you can even considerably progress without unlocking the various facilities in the base. Still, I'm getting ahead of myself. One of the spin-off's crucial mechanics and features is the ability to tame monsters, allowing them to join your party and aid in combative encounters. Getting them to join you is strikingly simple. They randomly appear as recruitable at the base once slain, though a special type of projectile shot by Erik and Mia can heighten those chances. Then, the final step for getting them to join is giving them the materials they desire. Still, even when considering the luck involved, the frequency and ease of encountering several monsters mitigate potential frustration. Additionally, each monster's uniqueness doesn't require players to catch them all, as their only manual active benefits arise from field skills. Some monsters let you ride them for swift traversal, while others can fly you to specific parts of the map. As long as your monster party's field abilities are varied and their levels are up to snuff, you don't have much to worry about. They are also vital for this game's namesake, finding treasure. Erik and Mia have the ability to identify the general location of a treasure if they're close enough in range, and once they're even closer, the monster in the party will transmit their sight, more clearly depicting where the loot can be found. However, utilizing their vision isn't quite so straightforward, since depending on which monster's eyes you're viewing, the presentation alters. It's obstructed in different ways, which I found clever and humorous because it gives them mechanics and personality, alongside potentially impacting how one organizes their party formation. Interestingly, the slime family of monsters has human-like sight, so having one with you when searching for treasure is a viable strategy. It's also worth noting that more common treasures, bric-a-bracs, can easily be found. And as for what all this treasure does, it heightens your collective treasure value, which boosts your rank and earned benefits by extension. Moreover, monsters not in the active party can be sent on expeditions of their own, possibly bringing back loot of their own. Summatively, the myriad of ways to numerically progress provides constant windows of fulfillment. Other facets, like stealing other gangs' treasure and completing daily missions, can add variety. Unfortunately, the combat in Dragon Quest Treasures hampers the experience by a few notches. Despite exploration and treasure finding being a primary focus, you'll often find yourself in action. Aside from the previously mentioned scouting potentiality, there are also levels to gain and materials to gather in the world, with enemies being in the way of the latter. And the monster AI will passively fight for you, with general directives able to be stated. Further, Erik and Mia can shoot out pellets and attack with their dagger, but it's usually relatively minimal compared to what your allies can do. Regrettably, even when considering these special maneuvers dubbed wild sides, the combat remains incredibly shallow and simple. The latter trait is usually a pursued focus in Dragon Quest, yet with how frequently one will find themselves embroiled in combat, more fighting methods would have been appreciated to stave off dullness. There are even dungeons solely dedicated to fighting, and for as brief as they sometimes are, I was perplexed by its inclusion, since these battle mechanics don't have much going for them. Another critique I have, that's tangentially related, has to do with the soundtrack. Opinions on Dragon Quest's audio have always been pretty mixed from what I've seen, though I've always been a general fan. But the way it's incorporated into Treasures is head-scratching, to say the least. When exploring a map, the song remains the same regardless of where you are in a combative scenario or not, which, at least for me, weaken the tension and the atmosphere. It's clear that Treasures is meant to be a casually enjoyable experience, but this lack of implemented audio caused these encounters to feel less eventful. While this may sound like a minor throwaway point, it got to me more than I initially liked to admit. Facing a wave of foes with the lively field music playing in the background sent mixed messages. Thankfully, the title performs well. You'll certainly notice frame drops in a few contexts, though it's never debilitating to the overall experience. One last collective point worth bringing attention to is the base's vendors. After completing specific missions, you'll gain access to a workshop to craft pellets, a cafeteria to cook food, and an item shop. These functionalities are all apparent, adding spice to the gameplay loop. Currency is almost humorously common, so purchasing essentials should never be a concern. On an offhanded note, online features are present that I did not get the chance to try out due to this review occurring pre-release, but based on what has been officially stated about it, the mode is merely supplemental, enabling players to interact with each other's treasures and monsters for gameplay benefit. Dragon Quest Treasures is a fun time with plenty of adventuring to be had. Its charming writing is essentially expected of the series, and the endearing cast creates a distinct, inviting ambiance, even if the story isn't exactly compelling. Of course, there are plenty of tasks to complete, and items to find to keep busy as well. However, the mindless and recurring combat can make progression a chore and blatantly unenjoyable, if playing for lengthy sessions. The maps themselves can grow samey because of it too, and the odd audio implementation is another fault that stood out. Still, the overall gameplay loop here can draw you in for dozens and dozens of hours, with an impressive quantity of content to appease dedicated players. Noisy Pixel is giving Dragon Quest Treasures a 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to check out the full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all their future content.
Noisy Pixel.